Hello and welcome to the Wednesday, 19th of November edition of A Proud Malcontent. I am Peter Bell and I am a proud malcontent. I've got a lot of stuff for you today. I even did a running order, almost like a professional. I'm gradually getting to grips with this whole podcasting thing. One of these days, I'll actually script a show and it'll all be slick and smooth, and you'll all think you're watching the wrong thing. So, like I say, I have a running order today, and I should stick to it because there's quite a lot to talk about. The first thing is a letter in the National, obviously, which I missed on Monday. It's a letter from Mike Wallace. Now, you'll remember Mike Wallace of uh, Newington Resolution fame. Mike was almost single-handedly trying to get the SNP to change its approach to the constitutional issue and to take a line more akin to Scottish UDI. Mike's uh, ideas and mine are both based on more or less the same thinking, and it starts with making the 2026 Scottish general election not a plebiscite on independence, because that will not work, but a plebiscite on the powers of the Scottish Parliament. Specifically, the powers that the Scottish Parliament requires in order that we, people of Scotland, can have the means and opportunity to exercise our right of self-determination. Uh, that is the start. That's where it starts, or that's where it should start. And Mike has been uh, pushing this idea. We're both basically on the same page as far as this is concerned. But Mike has been working from inside the SNP while I've been working outside pretty much everything. And Mike has written this letter, and in it he sets out his thinking as he has presented it to the party, to the SNP. And he's making the point that he's still waiting for the SNP's reply to his first steps proposal, as he calls it. And I have to say, to him, Mike, dinna hold your breath, son, because you'll wait a long time. The SNP leadership has developed ignoring to something akin to a science, never mind an art. They seem to know precisely what to ignore and how long to ignore it, which is forever. Uh, that is basically their modus operandi. It works with internal, any kind of internal communication. If it's something they don't like, then their first step is ignore it. Ignore it long enough, and it will go away. Even with the complaints process has been changed, I know that, and I don't know that much about the new complaints process. But for a very long time, that was the way that they handled complaints. They just ignored them. You complained about something such as the lack of contact details, published contact details for all the branches, and that complaint was simply ignored. It was never addressed. And the theory is that if they ignore you long enough, you'll go away. And I have to say, it works, except that some people go away from the party, never mind just away from whatever it is they're trying to get across. Like myself and thousands of others, we just got fed up with the way the leadership was treating members, and we just walked. So no more subscriptions from me. Mike Wallace, I admire for his persistence and for the fact that he has stuck with it in the party. And I just really like people to appreciate what that must be like for him. I know how difficult it is trying to get across a novel way of thinking about anything. More on that later. I know how difficult that is uh, out here, where you would think I had a ready audience in the independence movement. But how much more difficult must that be within the SNP, or probably any of the parties? In fact, definitely any of the parties. How difficult that must be when you come up against that kind of reaction from the leadership. You just get blanked, ghosted, completely ignored. You might as well not exist. The other reaction that you get, not from the SNP leadership, but from the likes of elected members, that was demonstrated some months back by Tommy Shepherd when I approached him just to basically introduce him to the Scottish UDI thinking. And as soon as I started speaking, he wet himself. His pants went up, and he was like, "Oh no! I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. I've got my party. I don't want to hear any of this stuff." Oh. And that was genuinely what it was like. I'm exaggerating only a very little here. It was this totally panicked reaction, as if he was even seen talking to somebody like myself, then it would be the end for him. It really was pathetic. And it isn't just the SNP, because a colleague of mine got exactly the same reaction from Kenny McCaskill when he tried to broach the subject with them. And I have had similar reaction from various people that I've approached in parties who I would rather not name, or to be more precise, I would rather not reveal that I can't remember their names, but they're not important. This reaction, this wall goes up as soon as you start talking about something which is not familiar. If you start talking about a route to independence that isn't simple or simplistic. And I blame the politicians for this because they simplify everything, and the media, they dumb things down. They treat the electorate as stupid. Now, I say that the electorate is dumb, but that is when it is acting en masse, is acting like a dumb beast en masse. But these political parties and the political leaders are addressing individuals, individual voters when they're speaking. But they go for a lowest common denominator approach, which they think, well, will the most stupid voter out there understand this? And if the answer is no, they say, right, well, we'll have to simplify it. We'll simplify it by cutting away a lot of stuff. And eventually they end up cutting away stuff that's absolutely vital. But if it sounds good as a slogan, or if it sounds good as rhetoric, if it looks good on a billboard or on a meme, then that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't have to mean anything. There doesn't have to be any substance behind it. So long as it grabs attention for a few seconds, That's all they're interested in. And so we get them all talking about independence as if it was just as simple as that. We just go for independence. Well, what Alberta referred to as the intellectual wing of the independence movement, of which I'm merely an honorary member, uh, the intellectual wing of the independence movement has reflected on this, and so they found that it is just wrong. You don't go straight for independence. You have to prepare the ground first, and I don't mean necessarily setting up the institutions, etc., although that might be part of it. But what you absolutely must do is set up the the machinery, the political and parliamentary machinery by which you will move to independence. That all has to be set up first. So this idea of just having a plebiscite about independence is nonsense, but it's nonsense which is simple enough for the average mollusk to comprehend. Therefore, it's simple enough for the politicians to try and convey to the people. They don't have much confidence in their communication skills if they won't try and explain to people exactly what's required. That's a bit sad. So, talking about the intellectual wing, I would include Mike on that because he's gone the same way. He's realised that there isn't a simple way to just go uh, straight to independence. There has to be this intermediate step where you set up the apparatus. And we have a message from Angus Brendan McNeil. Hello, Angus. Good to hear from you. He says, or he asks, why won't a plebiscite election? Why won't a plebiscite election not work? Okay, you're typing in a hurry, Angus. Why won't a plebiscite election work? Westminster has never said this. Why do people want to find convoluted ways to ignore the straightforward and obvious? Who can say to the Scottish people, or if you vote for independence at an election, it will not work? That is personal arrogance over democracy, no matter who is telling that to the people. Well, it's not my personal arrogance, Angus. It's just the fact that I've thought it through. The, when we vote on the constitutional issue, when we vote on the constitutional question, that vote must be conclusive. And it must be conclusive because I'm talking about the sorry, I got distracted there, I guess. I'm talking about the final vote, and I'm talking about what happens afterwards. If the vote is not conclusive, then there is going to be question marks over it. There's going to be question marks over the outcome. And if there are any question marks, the unionists, the hardline unionists among us, will raise those questions, and they may well raise those questions in a variety of ways. I'm not going to get too deeply into that, but I think I think you see where I'm coming from on this. If there's the slightest doubt at all about the result, or if there's even the possibility of making it look as if there's doubt about it, then we will have opposition. We will have division, serious division, not just ordinary political division, but a serious ideological divide. So that is the reason that the main reason that a plebiscite election on independence won't work. basically, independence is just too important for that kind of a referendum. There are too many arguments against it. There are too many arguments that can dismiss the outcome. How do you know that all the people are voting for the same thing? How do you know they're all voting for independence? The people who vote SNP aren't voting for independence. They are not. No, they're voting for a Section 30 request. That is the policy. That is John Swinney's declared strategy. That he will, if the SNP get a majority of seats, he will request a Section 30 order. So you're not voting for independence. You're voting for a Section 30 order request. You're not even voting for a Section 30 referendum. That would be a pretty stupid thing to do. No, you're just voting for the request. You're not voting for independence. So that wipes out the whole of the SNP vote. That doesn't count as yes in your plebiscite. And the same other arguments similar could be made, because all the parties have different positions on independence and they're saying different things about it. Then it's not absolutely clear that everybody who voted for one of these nominally pro-independence parties is voting for the same thing. So it can't be a referendum. A referendum has to be binary. There is a way to introduce a binary element into a plebiscite election. There is a way to do it. But you see, because it's a wee bit more convoluted, Angus, politicians don't want the job of having to explain that to people. Politicians are lazy. We're all lazy. Politicians are looking for the easy way. It's difficult to get people to understand concepts that have maybe 3 or 4 parts to them. But it seems convoluted, so the politicians just ignore it. We have a response to Angus here from Stephen Duncan. Just calling an election de facto referendum does not make it so. A de facto referendum should be on the powers of the Scottish Parliament and can only come about if the currently name-only pro-independence parties adopt a common and identical prospectus for self-determination, not independence. The question on the constitutional arrangements, full self-government, restoration or status quo needs to be explicit for the outcome to be conclusive and decisive. That requires a properly constituted national referendum on this sole and single issue. And Stephen also asks, what's Westminster got to do with that? Yeah, that Angus mentioned Westminster. Why would I be bothered about? What Westminster says, Angus? I'll leave that to the politicians. I'll leave that to the SNP and Alapa. I'll leave that to the politicians that defer to Westminster. The politicians that say we've got to ask Westminster's permission. The Scottish UDI proposal, if you bother to learn about it, cuts Westminster out of the process altogether, as is proper. The self in self-determination doesn't just mean the people of Scotland and whoever the Scottish government decides to invite in. No, the self in self-determination means the people of Scotland. It is for us to decide. The decision must be made here in Scotland, and it must be made by a method that is also made and managed completely, exclusively here in Scotland. Westminster has no role in the exercise of Scotland's self-determination. That is not me saying that. That is the UN. Now, why? When the UN is saying that the administering power has no role in the act of exercising self-determination. Why, when the UN is saying that, is John Swinney saying, no, we must ask Westminster. We must bring Westminster into the process. Why? Why? There's no need. And they shouldn't be welcomed in. That giving Westminster a veto strikes me as a very, very bad idea. And you can deny that it's a veto, but we'll just wait until we see Starmer's response to John Swinney's request for a Section 30 order. And then John Swinney's got no plans for after that. So we'll just wait and see whether it's a veto or not. If it stops John Swinney in his tracks and stops the SNP, stops the Scottish Government in its tracks, then it's a veto. And John Swinney has no idea what to do after that, except go on using independence as an electioneering device. Should have listened to Mike Wallace, and you'll remember I said I had a running order. It's a bit of a joke now with the way things are going, but this is great. This is what it's all about. Angus, get in touch, email me, phone me, whatever, and I will happily run through the Scottish UDI thinking with you and see what you think of it after that, when you actually understand what it's about. But I do understand, getting back to what I was saying, I do understand Mike Wallace. You remember Mike Wallace that we were talking about just a wee while ago, before we got Angus's intervention there. He has been trying to get this thinking across in the SNP. I've been trying to get it across, not just myself, of course, there have been others, but we've been trying to get it across from outside the SNP. We're trying to get it to all the nominally pro-independence parties, and they are only nominally pro-independence parties until such time as they change their approach to the constitutional issue, until such time as they all adopt a new approach and an informed approach. They all adopt it. Then none of them are pro-independence parties. None of them actually has a plan that will take us to a proper constitutional referendum. None of them. And it's a proper constitutional referendum that we need. Next year's plebiscite, as Stephen said, next year's plebiscite can be used, next year's election can be used as a plebiscite in order to obtain a mandate for the Scottish Parliament to take powers over the Constitution for the purpose of enabling us to exercise our right of self-determination, there being no other way. Now, that is what is going to have to happen in the end. Whatever happens in the meantime, that's the way it's going to, if Scotland's independence is going to be restored, that is the way it's going to happen. And until the politicians get on board with this, then we're lost. We're going nowhere. And what John Swinney is proposing to do is try and scupper that. He probably doesn't realise he's scuppering the independence movement, but that is what he's doing. Because we have to be able to claim, when we get round to setting up our own proper constitutional referendum, we, in order to make that a human rights issue, we have to be able to state that there is no other way, that we must adopt this approach, or otherwise the people of Scotland cannot exercise their right of self-determination. But what John Swinney is proposing to do is validate the Section 30 process. And I'm not talking about the Section 30 as it is in the Act of Parliament. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about the whole process by which a referendum happens using a Section 30 order. I just say the Section 30 process is shorthand for the very thing that John Swinney is going for, which is to replicate the whole situation for the 2014 referendum. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to rerun the 42 weeks between March 2011, when the Alex Salmond's SNP won a majority, and the referendum in September 2014. John Swinney thinks he can replicate those 42 weeks. He can't. He can't, he won't, and it's just a nonsense. But in the process, what he's doing is he's validating the Section 30 process. He is saying, yes, on behalf of the Scottish Government, the Scottish Parliament, the Scottish people, he is speaking for us. And he's saying, yes, the section process is a democratic way for us to exercise our right of self-determination. And it isn't. But he's saying that it is. So then when we did get round to actually having the proper constitutional referendum, the UK government can put up a legal challenge to that, stating that there already is a process, the process that John Swinney is about to validate. He shouldn't be validating it, he should be repudiating it. But that has probably never crossed his mind, because new thinking, fresh ideas just do not get through to the SNP leadership. A comment from Jason Honeyman. You make a lot of good points. Swinney's plan is a busted flush. It is indeed, Jason. Sorry, did I say John? Jason, it's a busted flush, but it's also very dangerous. As I've just explained, it does serious harm to Scotland's cause. Everybody will realise that when it's too late. By this time in 2006, or maybe early in 2007, everybody will realise that John Swinney has really things up. But it'll be too late by then. The damage will be done. I'm not sure. I haven't thought that far ahead. I'm not sure the situation will be retrievable then. I certainly wouldn't want to rely on John Swinney and company retrieving it, because they've shown themselves to be just totally incompetent. If they were at all competent, they'd be listening, at least listening to Mike Wallace. And this all started when basically when I was simply trying to say to Mike Wallace, well done, my friend, and you stick at it, you persist with this. You'll have my support, and you should have the support of every thinking person in the independence movement. You are doing good work, and it's a tragedy that it's to no avail. Moving on after I've had a little drink, because it's thirsty work, this. Not gin. Trust me, I'd be in a lot better mood if it was. Right, what's next on running order? Oh, yes. No newspaper page for this one, because it's it's a social media thing, and I follow social media quite a lot. Facebook, X, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, all the well-known ones. I keep an eye on them, particularly Facebook, because Facebook you tend to have longer and more detailed exchanges. But the thing that I'm noticing and it's really, really wearying me. The thing that I'm noticing is that there's still this constant argument about whether to go with whether it should be SNP 1 and 2 or SNP and A another 2. SNP 1, A another 2. And that constant argument. And then you get a sub argument about if it's to be SNP 1, A another 2, which one should be A another. And this is just so pointless, such a pointless distraction from the main business of the day that it really irks me, and it seems impossible to get through to people just how pointless it is. Because none of these parties has a strategy for getting us to a proper constitutional referendum, it's not worth voting for any of them. I'm a Scottish nationalist, a lifelong Scottish nationalist. There isn't a party out there that I can vote for uh, because of my Scottish nationalism. There isn't one. There is no party out there that represents my views. There's no party that offers me the possibility of taking Scotland's cause forward. None of them, because none of them has a strategy for getting us to that proper constitutional referendum, a referendum that can be conclusive. Uh, so that's one point. That's one point. None of them are any use. That should be sufficient. That should kill this whole argument dead, because it really doesn't matter. There may be some parliamentary arithmetic in there whereby the British parties might take control of the parliament, but the polls are the best information that we have, and the polls are telling us that the SNP is going to be the largest party and the party of government. We have to go with the polls. If we're talking strategy, we have to go with the polls because that is the best information we have. So that's the way it's going to be, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who else is there, because they won't have any power. So whoever it is that you're voting for on the list, in the hopes of getting them seats, thinking that they're going to hold the SNP's feet to the fire. I hate these cliches. Whichever party that is, whether it's ALPA, any of the other ones, the ones that don't even show in the polls, that's a waste of time, because these parties won't have a handful of ALPA MSPs won't be able to do anything. The SNP will cut them out of everything. And as far as possible, the SNP, going by the polls, again, that's the best information we have, the SNP and the Greens between them will have it all tied up. So ALPA or whoever will simply be cut out of the process. Stephen Duncan says, constituency, not my party, region, end the union. Right, there's that's Stephen Duncan's suggestion for a voting strategy. Thank you, Stephen, but quite honestly, it doesn't matter what voting strategy you use. You're certainly right that on the list you might as well write end the union, might as well spoil your ballot and write end the union across it, because the election will already have been decided on the constituency vote, going by the polls. It will have been decided on the constituency vote. The SNP will be in there with the support of the Greens, and then nothing will happen. On the constitutional issue, nothing will happen. It will be another 5 wasted years, because John Swinney has no strategy beyond asking for a Section 30 order, as if it was David Cameron sitting in number 10 and not Sir Keir Starmer, and as if John was Alex Salmond and not his sorry self. it's a loser. It's a loser, and it should be a loser for the whole independence movement. It should be seen as that. Unfortunately, people get sold on these things very easily, and they get sold on these voting strategies as well. I pointed out uh, two reasons why it's a waste of time. I'll point out a third, and that is to do with this whole business of um, getting the unionists out, uh, tactical voting on the list system in order to remove the unionists and get a bigger pro-independence, nominally pro-independence majority. There might be an argument for that. If any of the parties that were looking to be part of this larger pro-independence majority uh, actually had a strategy that they could push. But they don't have that strategy, and they wouldn't be able to push it anyway because the SNP will dominate with some help from the Greens or help from elsewhere if it should be needed. That they won't. That they're calling it a super majority. They call it max the yes, a super majority, whatever. It is utterly pointless. A majority is absolute. It is a binary thing. There's a majority and there's a minority. A minority is a minority, no matter how small it is. A majority is a majority, no matter how big it is. And pretty much every vote in Holyrood, in the chamber, pretty much every vote. There are a few exceptions, but they really don't. They're really not relevant. Every vote is on a simple majority. There's no qualified majority voting except for certain specific things, certain positions on the parliamentary corporate body and that sort of thing. But otherwise, there is a way, in theory at least, that a real supermajority, which is 86 or 87, it's two-thirds, 2/3 plus one, 86 if you don't count the speaker, but there are occasions when the speaker can vote, so you're best to say 87. Now, there's no combination of nominally pro-independence parties that is ever going to reach that. And the only point of doing so, the only point of realizing that real supermajority would be to bring down the government and hopefully force an election. Wouldn't necessarily force an election, but in theory, it would. And why would you do that? Why would you do that if you've got a super majority in favour of independence? Yeah, it's pointless. There is nothing that can be done with 76 MSPs that cannot be done with 67. That is the fact of it. So all this talk about maxing the yes and a super majority is utter nonsense. It makes absolutely no difference. So long as the nominally pro-independence parties, because that's the best we can do, that's all we've got. So long as those nominally pro-independence parties are in the majority, even if it's just a majority of one or two, they are going to form the government and they are going to dominate the voting in the chamber. So having more there's a certain gratification to be had, I suppose, from unseating unionists, unseating the British members of the Scottish Parliament, the British politicians who are squatting in our Parliament. There's some gratification to be had in doing that. Yes, I grant you. But it doesn't actually do any good beyond that. You get a wee thrill out of it, yeah, and that is all. You don't get anything more out of it. It doesn't give you any advantage. Now, of several more comments. So let me see. We have Mark Bain, Scottish UDI, 100%. Thank you, Mark. Mark Bain again. We don't need permission, don't need a Section 30 order. We are sovereign. We will decide. That is the essence of the matter, Mark. Gordon Henderson. Hi, Gordon. Scotland free of the SNP green ideology or Scotland a desert? You perhaps overstate for the purposes of making your point, Gordon, but it's a point well made. And then David McGowran, who mentions Green Party compromises with 2 question marks. Well, fair point, David. If the SNP is relying on any other parties, and it'll almost certainly be the Greens, there have to be compromises. Politics is all about compromises. It's getting the best deal you can, and sometimes that's better. It's actually the way that the Scottish Parliament was designed to work. It was designed to force the parties to work together. Obviously, that cannot happen because there's this very fundamental ideological divide between nationalists and unionists. Ne'er the twain shall meet. So that won't allow for, there can't be any compromise on that. There's no such thing as semi-independence. It's independence or nothing. I know what David McGowran means when he speaks about these Green Party compromises. He's not so subtly hinting at things like the gender ideology, which caused so much disruption, and specifically the self-ID part of that, which was really the bit that I objected to because it's a denial of science. It's the government telling a lie, basically, when the person can change their documentation to make out that they're a different sex from what they are, then that's the government participating in a fraud. So I was against it for those and very many other reasons. I almost said I don't see the SNP going for compromises like that anymore. They will have learned their lesson. And then I realised what I was about to say and realised who I was talking about. And I thought, oh, well, maybe David's concerns are justified. Mark Bain, they imposed our crown illegally. Why should we bend the knee to these perfidious Albions? No thanks. Yep, okay, Mark, that's another point well made. This whole bend, you should be making that point to John Swinney, though. And his colleagues and the rest of them in the nominally pro-independence parties, they're the ones who are deferring to Westminster needlessly and dangerously, recklessly, and they have to stop. That has to stop. Yeah, we'll never get any progress so long as our political leaders are deferring to Westminster. You know what happens when they defer to Westminster? I explain another thing, another danger in what John Swinney is doing. He is effectively acceding to the doctrine of parliamentary sovereignty, because by asking for a Section 30 order in order to do something that we have a fundamental human right to do, by asking Westminster for that, after getting a mandate from the people, supposedly for independence. On the one hand, he's saying that he's got a mandate from the people for independence. On the other hand, he's going and asking Westminster if it's okay, if he honours that mandate. And if Westminster says no, well, it's tough luck. The mandate doesn't count for anything, says John Swinney. If the SNP doesn't get an overall majority, there is no mandate. But by the very act of asking for it, he puts Westminster above the people of Scotland. The people of Scotland are sovereign. That the people of Scotland are sovereign is both a constitutional fact and an inviolable principle. And John Swinney intends, he tells us, to violate that principle. If he says that Westminster is sovereign, which he has declared he intends to do, if he says that, then he's saying this in the same breath. He is saying that the people of Scotland are not sovereign, because there cannot be two sovereigns. It's absolute and indivisible. The sovereignty is absolute and indivisible. So there can't be two. There's no such thing as shared sovereignty. It lies either with the people or with the Parliament or with some other power, military coup or whatever. But it's John Swinney is intending to completely smash the foundation of Scotland's distinctive political identity, and nobody's trying to stop him. Or there's only a handful of us trying to stop him, and I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Gordon Henderson says, imagine if we lifted the World Cup as an independent nation. Well, imagine indeed, Gordon. And that kind of brings me in timely fashion to the third item on my running order, which is a bit of a joke. And that is the football. Now, I don't talk much about sport because I'm not knowledgeable about sport, and I'm not a great sports fan. My wife is a sports fan in this household. Excuse me. Wet my whistle again. It's not that I don't enjoy sport. I occasionally watch a football match and or whatever, mostly a football match. But I kind of can't get excited about it, and I might say that it's especially true of the Scottish team, Scottish national team. But even an old cynic like me has to admit to a wee speeding up of the heartbeat when I saw the story in the National about Scotland getting through to the World Cup. I have to say, yeah, it makes you proud. You don't have to be a sports fan or a football fan for that. It makes you proud. But what struck me most about the whole issue, this whole thing, is the story of it. It's not just that it was done; it's the way that it was done. I haven't actually seen the goals, but I've seen enough praise for them to know that at least two of them were like superb goals, the sort of goals that like Kenny Dalglish and Dennis Law used to score. The comparisons have been made there, and it's the story of it. And the point that I want to make was what was struck me is it's the same with our independence. People have said to me, it doesn't matter how we get it. We've got to get independence. It doesn't matter how we get it. I say it does matter, because the way we do it, and usually talk about the how of independence, meaning the actual political and parliamentary process. That's normally what I mean by the how of independence. In this context, what I mean by the how is the way it happens, like the way this football match was won. The way it was won adds something to it, makes it all the more glorious. It's like the underdog winning or coming from behind and winning. It's a great story. We must have a great story about the restoration of our independence. We do not want, for example, that story to be that our independence was granted to us by noble and generous Britannia. Just Britannia is not noble or generous. Britannia is avaricious and jealous. And the idea that we would be given our independence is obnoxious to me. It's not a story I would want to tell my grandchildren. I want a story that I can tell my grandchildren that gets them excited. I want a story that Mel Gibson can make a movie about. I want it to be done in a way that we can be proud of. It's it's that story. It's the story. That has to be right as well. And that is one of the reasons to oppose a Section 30 process. Because that can never lead to independence. And even if it did, it would be independence insofar as it was gifted to us by England as Britain, that they have allowed all this to come about. No, I want us to do it ourselves. That's the way it should be done. That's the way all other nations do. They do it themselves. They do not go asking the administering power for favors and boons and gifts. No, they do it themselves. Uh, it's an internal process. It has nothing to do with Westminster. We cut them out. If they're involved in the story, other than as the villains of the piece, and I say that in a good-natured way, uh, if they're involved in the story, other than as the villains of the piece, then the story is ruined. Just as if Scotland had got through by a fluke goal, a Danish own goal, or something like that, yeah, it would still have been a win, and it would still have been great, but it wouldn't have been quite what it is this time. and this time is absolutely superb. It's a story. No matter what happens in the rest of the competition, this story will be told of how Scotland won that match. People will be proud of it. They'll enjoy telling it. It'll be. I'm not saying it will be mentioned as many times as England winning the World Cup in 1966, but it'll get a few mentions. You can be sure of that. It's that kind of story. It will live on. So well done, the team. I don't imagine my congratulations are worth very much, but I send them nonetheless. Right, it's time to wind up, and what's on the running order? There's things there that I'm supposed to speak about. Ah, yes, this is moving on from Mike Wallace's letter on the community page. Just returning to that briefly. Uh, the sun is setting. I'm soon going to have to set up the studio lighting for this because the sun sets about 4 o'clock. So it started setting now. It's gradually growing dark. Getting back to Mike Wallace's letter, I too have written an open letter. It should be online on Substack now. I wrote this open letter to readers of the National and the Sunday National. I'm hoping it'll be published, but I've put it on the blog anyway. And it's just it's an interpretation of our situation, with the taking due account of the opinions of these legal experts that we've been hearing a lot about lately, Professors McHarg, Tierney, and Tompkins, Adam Tompkins. Sorry, Mr. Tompkins, Professor Tompkins. Taking account of their opinions on the matter, and I'm just explaining what that means in this letter. I'm just explaining what that means. I've got another comment from Mark Bain, who says, Kenneth McAlpin, 843 AD, the Declaration of the Clergy, 1310, the Declaration of Arbroath, 1320, and the Claim of Right, 1689. That's Mark pointing out all the historical support for the sovereignty of the people of Scotland. But quite honestly, I don't think that's in any doubt at the moment, Mark. The people of Scotland are sovereign. Ask anybody, except John Swinney, because John Swinney seems to think that Westminster is sovereign, which means we can't be. Right. If anybody would actually, rather than just making comments, you can send in material, questions, whatever, by email, but they'll have to arrive well before the show, well before the show's scheduled start time, so that I can have a chance to look at them. I try to keep up with the live comments here. I can't cover the email as well. It's just me. I don't have a producer here to give me a hand. But if anybody would actually like to come on the programme and talk to me about these matters, if it's constitutional matter in particular, then I would be very happy to have them. Just email me, put participant in the subject line, and I will send you a link. And when it comes time, you just click that link, and I press a button, and you're live on air with all 15 of our viewers. We have 15 viewers today, but I have to say, the podcast, the recorded version, which goes online on Substack about an hour after the show finishes. The last time I looked, that was getting into the high hundreds, getting towards 1,000. So, the show is getting somewhere. Obviously, I need to make improvements, but that will be done in the fullness of time, if I can be bothered keeping it going. I'll say it one more time. If you would like to be on the show, discuss anything with me, tear my ideas to shreds, or let me tear yours to shreds, then by all means, bring it on. And likewise, if you have any questions for Stephen Duncan, who does Confute Corner, the number crunching on a Sunday, if you have any questions for him, you can email them to the same address, proudmalcontent@peterabell.scot. I'll maybe try and give Stephen his own email address. I think that would be easier. I meant to do that, and it slipped my mind, like so many other things. And talking about Stephen Duncan, on Sunday Confute Corner, the title of the presentation from Stephen is "There's Been Another Surge," and this is relating to polls and the Nationals' habit and custom of describing any upward blip in the polls as a surge. That's Sunday. For today, it's time to say goodbye. Goodbye.